Requesting connection. Established. Encrypted. We're live. The show you've been asking for. Advice, technology, and community. Linux first, all others second. This is Ask Noah.
Live from Multispeed Technologies, the Ask Noah Show starts right now. This is the show where we do all the things on Linux they said that couldn't be done and take your calls on how to do the same. The phone lines are open this hour. To be a part of the program, it's a free call, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624, or send an email to live@asknoahshow.com. My name is Noah Chalai. I am your host. Delighted to be here this hour as another episode of the Ask Noah Show kicks off. So good evening, everybody. Like I said, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy you could make it. And right off the bat, I want to dive in and explain what's going on this week, because the schedule is a little bit kittywonker right now. So, as it stands right now, I am on my way to Linux Fest Northwest. And we want to make sure that we have ample time to prep all of the really cool things that we're doing, and we're going to be doing them all in Linux. And so that is reason to tune in to our live episode, which I have the timesheet right here, and we are going to be live at 4 p.m. Central, so that's 2 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday. So join us 2 p.m. Pacific time, that's 4 p.m. Central at jblive.tv, and we'll be streaming. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, we invite you to attend Linux Fest Northwest live. We're going to be doing the show right there from the Linux Northwest floor. It's I'm going to be there. Chris is going to be there. Alan Jude is going to be there. Wes is going to be there. There's a boxing match that's going to occur between Alan and I. We're going to battle it out once and for all and find out which is better. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. But I might try BSD while I'm out there. That's a lie too. But no, it's fun for the whole family. You really should come out and hang out, meet everyone. And now, earlier today, I had a fantastic opportunity. I got an invitation from the University of North Dakota to come be a guest speaker for Dr. Tim Pash's COM 405, Social Implications of Digital Communication. Now, this is an interesting class because what COM 405 is basically the class that teaches students how to podcast, how to manage social media. They have taken what is a very organic grassroots thing, and they've codified it. So, why that I have mixed feelings on it, but I am proud to say that the professor that is teaching the class is a very well-respected, very nice guy who really understands the technology, who really has a passion for it, and so there's nobody better to be teaching the class. But I guess where my concern comes in is, and I've talked about this with Chris, is the concept of codifying things that are so grassroots and are good because they are grassroots, because they don't have standards. But each student in COM 405, as I learned today, is required to host a podcast while they are enrolled in the class. And so, being that I am both a podcaster and have a presence here in the Grand Forks media space, they invited me to speak on what it takes to get a podcast up and off the ground and what problems they might run into. And I think that at the Ask Noah Show, I think we put a really fantastic presentation together. And of course, I had the help and support of Jupiter Broadcasting. And so Chris lent some expertise, and we got that, snuck that into the presentation, things that he's taught me and things that he's shown me and things that resources that he has given me. I think the presentation worked out really well. Now, we do the show live, 6 p.m. Central, as we're doing right now. And so if you want to call 855-450-NOAH, that's 855-450-6624. Of course, you can send an email to live@asknoahshow.com. We'll take your calls or your emails live here on the air. We'll also bring in the Mumble Room in a little bit and chat with them if they want. But the issue is I don't have absolutely any time after I turn the microphone off. The episode would not get released. It would not get into the podcast feeder. It would not get uploaded to YouTube. I don't even have time to finish up the show notes because the way I write show notes and the way that they are published. Oh, hello. Hi, phone. That was nice of you not to respect my do not disturb settings. The way that I write the notes for the actual show that I present and the way that they are published are two drastically different things. And so those aren't done. And so earlier this morning, I was trying to figure out how I'm going to accomplish all these things because we won't punt the show because we want to take your calls. We want to be here to answer questions and to chat with you. We want to provide a reliable, consistent podcast. But we needed an episode that would go out tonight. And like I just mentioned, I'm literally en route, so I'm going to be at 30,000 feet in the air when this program is supposed to be being edited, and I have no time to do any of that, much less fill out the show notes to have somebody else edit it. So at the same time, we don't do banked episodes here at the Ask Noah Show. You get a new show, live on the air with the phone lines open at 1-855-450-NOAH every single week. So here's the solution that we came up with. So stick with me on this. Tonight, we're going to do this show live. We're going to take your phone calls, all the usual stuff that you would come to expect from the Ask Noah Show. Once I get off the air, I am going to get straight onto an airplane, and then we are going to press a button, and we're going to publish an episode, but it's going to... Okay, actually, I take that back. I guess we have published the episode, so it's out already. That's be good information to know before I went on the air. It's not going to be the episode that you're listening to right now. It's going to be a special edition from earlier today, the presentation that we did at the university. And then once I land and maybe get something to eat and sleep and breathe, then I will go back and I'll put the finishing touches on the episode we're doing right now. And so you'll actually get 2 Ask Noah shows this week. One today. If you're listening to it live, then I guess you get both today. And then you'll get one later on, sometime in the week. Now, I have to warn you about something. The episode that came out earlier today, and like I said, I think we did a really good job at the presentation, but we did the best we could to make content that is suitable for podcasting and radio. But the truth of the matter is that we had to focus our attention on and prioritize the students that were in the class. And so the audio production took a back seat. Now, it's not bad, but I wouldn't call it great either. Now, there is an upside. It turns out it's actually easier to record on a video camera than it would have been to try to find some video filler, record a separate audio stream, and then try to mash the two up in post. So if you're the kind of person that really misses a video show, this is your lucky week, because Ask Noah Show episode 59, the special edition of the Ask Noah Show that we shot earlier today at UND, is a full video production. So if you go to YouTube, download and watch it on there, or you can download the video, although I think the video file is going to be huge because it's actual camera video stuff. But hopefully that makes sense on what we planned and why we did it. And like I said, I'm hoping that we didn't confuse anyone too bad. And at the end of the day, we're going above and beyond to deliver more of the product that you asked for. So 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. Our call screener isn't with us quite yet. She's running a bit late, so we're just going to take some calls here without screening them. Hey, caller, you're on the air. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hello.
That's you.
Hi. Oh, cool. Okay. So I had a question I was hoping you could help me out with. I'm actually just starting to record a podcast of my own. It's about tabletop RPGs, but how I've been recording it so far, because I have to take in an audio source from my own microphone, as well as I record the other hosts through Discord. And I couldn't find a way to do that through Audacity, so I've actually just been using OBS and recording like an FLV and then converting that to MP3, because that allows me to take in audio from both the desktop and my microphone. But I was wondering if there's a better way to do this, preferably like in Audacity, take in multiple audio streams, one from desktop audio, one from my microphone, and I can have them on different channels, so I can sort of, adjust everyone's levels accordingly.
Sure.
Do you know about anything like that?
Yeah, there is. There's a tool called Pulse Audio Volume Control. So PAV. I'll look up the exact name for you. I think it's PAUV, Pulse Audio Volume Control, PAVU Control, something like that. Yeah. Here we go. PAVU Control. And basically, it is an application that will allow you to identify a software audio source as and basically feed that into an audio recorder. So that will show up as you can make that show up as an actual audio input. So that's one way you can do it. However, I will tell you something. The way that we are doing this show here is we are recording inside of OBS. we're doing it for different reasons. The reason I'm doing it is because we are capturing our live chat room. We're sending that out, but there's nothing wrong with recording in OBS. In fact, if you go into the settings in OBS and you go under the audio or by default it says simple. If you change the recording profile to custom, you can actually tell OBS to record MP3 or WAV or whatever, and you can do all of that in OBS. So unless you have some specific reason that you want to acquire in Audacity, there's actually nothing wrong with capturing the audio right in OBS. And if you want to get fancy about it, what you could do is you could capture in OBS. Maybe you said you were doing this, and then you could strip the audio out into Audacity. You could process it, and then in a video editor, you could put it back in.
Yeah. So. Well, I am doing that, except for I'm not recording a video as well. I didn't know there was a way to record directly to MP3. Yeah, I mean, I think that's helpful. The other thing would be sort of, I'm having difficulty sometimes with like the other hosts' audio levels coming through Discord, and
sure.
The only way I've been able to adjust them is by like adjusting the actual volumes of their user, whatever, their volumes in Discord. So I didn't know if doing it that way would give me like different channels that I could edit in Audacity.
Yes, it would. Yeah, that's right.
Or would it just be like one MP3?
Yeah, so you're right. If you bring it, well, yes, if you bring it in as a separate source, you can tell Audacity to record that source on a second track. So your microphone would record on track 1, for example. Their source would record on track 2. You know, honestly, here's what I would tell you. Having talking to you for a couple of minutes, you seem like you're pretty technically savvy. You have a pretty good idea of what you're doing. What I might suggest is you take a look at a piece of software called Reaper, Reaper. We'll have a link for you in the show notes. And what Reaper is a very... It's still, I think it's either free or it's very inexpensive. It's like $40-$50. But what Reaper allows you to do is they have what they call the audio matrix. And what the audio matrix does is it literally gives you, if you think kind of like a grid, your inputs are on the column side and your outputs are on the row side, if that makes any sense. And so you can literally say, I want this input to be assigned to these outputs or these recording channels, this, that, and the other. And then when you go into the tracks, when you record a track, you can say, I want to take just this input. I want to take a sum of, like you can create these little virtual mixes and you can say, I want a sum of, this group of mixes or whatever. So maybe you have 4 different hosts and they're all connecting on Discord. You can bring them all into their own track, but you can process them all. You can treat them all the same. If one gets raised, they all get raised. If one has compression, they all get compression, that kind of thing, which might streamline your process. But if you run out of flexibility in Audacity, that would be my next suggestion, is to take out is to swap out Audacity for Reaper and take a look at that. You'll find that there's a couple more features in it. The reason we always go to Audacity is because it's a very good, reliable, robust program that is free, and so it's really easy to get started. But it sounds like you might be on the cusp of getting ahead of what Audacity can do. But you could give it a shot with Pavu Control.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for all the suggestions. I'll definitely look into all those.
Yeah, we appreciate the call. Thanks for listening. Again, phone lines 1-855-450. That's 1-855-450-6624. The email live@asknoahshow.com. Let's see. What do we have on the docket this week? So last week we asked the question, is Apple done with the MacBook as we know it? Have they given up on the x64 infrastructure, and are they now concentrating on iOS and ARM? We read to you an article last week that talked about how in 2020, Apple will be discontinuing their Intel processors inside of their MacBooks in favor for ARM processors, and to try to pare down their code base and concentrate on iOS and iOS apps. Well, this week we have some news from Microsoft. This comes to us from BusinessInsider.com. Headline: Microsoft Azure Sphere is powered by Linux. Microsoft on Monday announced that Azure Sphere, a new technology designed to protect processors that power smart appliances, connected toys, and other gadgets. Azure Sphere is powered in large part by Linux, a free operating system that Microsoft once viewed as a major threat. I just want to stop and just point out that it really frustrates me when these articles come out and they make everything sound better than it is, right? that Microsoft once thought was a major threat. You mean they called it a cancer? They called it the cancer of software. It's the first time that Microsoft has ever made Linux a part of the product offering. Microsoft announced on Monday a new technology called Azure Sphere, a new system for securing tiny... did I lose my place? We'll get to the specifics in a moment, but here's the notable part. To power Azure Sphere, Microsoft has developed a custom version of Linux, a free operating system that Microsoft once considered the biggest threat to the supremacy of its Windows software. After 43 years, this is the first day that we are announcing and will be distributing a custom Linux kernel. Microsoft's president Brad Smith said on stage at an event in San Francisco. Smith said that Microsoft's reckoning the fact that the most new gadgetry comes with a processor, and this is a cause for concern. I agree with that. I do think it's problematic that we have all of these devices that are coming out. I think what's almost more concerning about the fact that we have all these devices that are coming out with processors is the fact that we have IPv6 on the cusp. And eventually, every single device that you buy in Walmart, Target, wherever, is going to come live on the internet. That is scary to me as well. The article continues, third, the chip OS combo will be integrated with Azure Sphere cloud security service designed to keep up devices with the latest security patches for at least 10 years. Well, that'll make some people happy. Smith says the Azure Sphere-powered hardware will hit the market later this year with more details to come. But hey, Microsoft is making its own Linux, and that's weird. And yet, it's been a long time coming. When Satya Nadella took Microsoft's CEO job in 2014, one of the first things he did was announce that Microsoft loves Linux. Since then, Microsoft has added robust support for Linux in its Azure cloud platform, while letting developers integrate Linux with their copies of Windows 10. In 2015, Microsoft developed a much smaller Linux-based technology as part of an open-source package. This, though, is the first time Microsoft has developed a version of Linux and then made it the cornerstone of its product offering. It's proof that anything is possible. So Microsoft is now making Linux. Now, I've beat this drum before, and I've hit some resistance when I talk about it, but I keep coming back to it because I know I'm right about this. Windows is not a secure operating system. And this further speaks to the fact that when people want a secure, reliable, robust operating system, they trust and they turn to Linux. And it would seem that these days that's even true for Microsoft, the creators of Windows. Now, I get it. This is not Microsoft WinX or Lindows or whatever you want to call it. This is not Microsoft's attempt at a Ubuntu competitor that's going to run on the desktop. Microsoft isn't going to be shipping any Surface Books with Linux anytime soon. But in some respects, this is the ultimate TiVo Linux again, right? But isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that Microsoft every few months keeps revisiting Linux to power more and more of its infrastructure? Isn't it interesting that Microsoft continues to turn to Linux to validate and stabilize their own market, their own software platforms? I have been watching with some interest that Microsoft doesn't revamp the NT kernel. There's a lot of things that are wrong with Windows, but if you used Windows prior to Windows 2000, Windows NT, if you used the Windows 95, 98, the concept of a blue screen of death, that was the era of blue screens of death. Not that it was solved by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly got a lot better once we went to the NT kernel. So I'm watching this with interest. And notice something else. It's yet one more piece of not local software that Microsoft is making. It's one more thing that Microsoft is using as a service to add to its revenue stream. So if you envision this, over here on the left, Apple is moving its concentration over to mobile. They're really concentrating on trying to get their code base solidified around iOS, around mobile. They're making a bunch of money doing it. They're doing a good job at mobile. So that's where they're concentrating. And over here on the right, we have Microsoft that is moving its concentration over to the subscription service-based cloud infrastructure model, which is kind of funny if you think about it. Canonical has been developing cloud-based OSs, and they're working with Dell to make all of these IoT instant response things. And now, it seems like in some regards, Microsoft's a little late to the game. But I see a void forming here in the desktop computing infrastructure. And I think Linux has an opportunity to fill it. But again, we have to be on the ball. We cannot get this wrong. When 1804 ships, people have to have a good experience. And so I want to do my part. I want to pitch in. I want to help wherever I can. I want to educate wherever I can. But, we got a lot riding on Linux here at the network. We're gonna be going out. We're going to be doing some things all on Linux, and there are some chances being taken. And how that plays out, I assure you, I guarantee it, 100% guarantee, how things play out in the next 3 weeks will have a significant impact to how we utilize and trust Linux going down the road. So there's a lot riding on these next couple iterations of software, and I hope we're ready for it. I think we are. But I just want to make sure that we're all in the same boat, and we all acknowledge the fact that this has not gone well, in the past, and we have to get it right this time. Let's go back to the phones. 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. Eric joins us from Indiana. Hey, Eric, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah. Thanks for taking my call. How are you doing tonight?
Yes, sir. Excellent. How can we help?
Yeah, so I'm a returning caller, and I do a podcast as a hobby, and I was actually approached by a potential sponsor for the first time, and first I was kind of blown away by that, but second, I immediately thought of how, in my opinion, how well you and the rest of Jupiter Broadcasting work with sponsors that obviously you feel very strong, passionate for, use like DigitalOcean, et cetera. So I'm just kind of curious what Jupiter Broadcasting kind of does when you evaluate sponsors, and if you had any advice for, ideas for how I would interact with a sponsor and, kind of on the business side of things. So,
Sure. Well, first, Eric, I need to give you a disclaimer. I don't in any way, in any shape or form, have anything to do with the sponsors that JB chooses, with the negotiation of the contracts. I am not privy to the amounts. I have absolutely nothing to do and cannot speak with any authority whatsoever in any way, shape, or form, implied or otherwise, to Jupiter Broadcasting finance, their sponsors, the shows they sponsor, who they sponsor, the ways I can't speak to any of that at all. So everything I'm about to tell you is just a reflection of my own opinion. Now, I am an expert in my own opinion, but that's all it is. With that said, the first thing I would advise you to do anytime you're looking at in fact, this goes for anyone taking money from anyone for any reason. The first thing you need to be able to do is live with yourself. And so I would never go on the air for any amount of money and say something that I don't believe. If tomorrow, Satya Nadella, if tomorrow Microsoft calls me and says, hey, we want to sponsor the Ask Noah Show because Microsoft loves Linux. The only thing is, we're Microsoft and we have Windows, so we want you to talk about how great Windows 10 is. You don't have to use it personally. You just have to put like one computer in your studio and maybe have it in some of the promo shots and stuff like that. And when people call in and say, "Is Windows an okay choice?" you just have to say, "Yeah, that it has its purpose" or something like that. You don't have to take a hard line, but just warm up to it a little bit. I would turn that to there is no amount of money that you could pay me to do that. So the first thing I would tell you is that you need to be able to live with yourself. And so I know that in the entire time that I did the Linux Action Show, because I did many of the ad reads, and I did ad reads on Linux Unplugged, I've never done an ad read for a product that I wouldn't personally pay for, that I wouldn't personally use, and that I don't personally believe in. Now, there are products and services that I am not a frequent purchaser of because... So, for example, Linux Academy, I think they offer a really great service. When I do my Red Hat certification, I do it through Linux Academy. But at the same time, I don't have the interest or the time to constantly be taking courses. And so it's not a service I use heavily. Now, Ting, on the other hand, or DigitalOcean, for example, I had to request an increase on my droplets because I have so many DigitalOcean VPSs. And with Ting, it literally... it actually solved a bit of this internal fight, between in my family, because my mother needed a phone, and we just pay for it because it's that cheap. So there are services that apply more to my life and ones that don't apply as much. But I would never take a sponsor, and I would never even read for a sponsor that I don't personally believe in. So that's hard rule for me, number one. Are you looking for, is that the kind of advice you're looking for? Are you looking for like numbers, cost-wise, what do I charge them, that kind of stuff?
Well, it's probably more the latter, only because first, it's been the first time I've been approached by a sponsor, and I don't know where to start with kind of, I don't want to say negotiation, but just kind of some dialogue with them about what kind of compensation they might offer and
Sure.
kind of what approaches I might take for that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, it is a negotiation, and so to a certain degree, it's largely going to be based off of what your product is worth, right? So if you look at your podcast, does your podcast have 1,000 people that are downloading it, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 1,000,000 people? Depending on what your listenership is, that's what I would that's how I would price the thing. I can tell you here at the radio station, because that is something I am a part of. They charge $15 for a 30-second ad. So you have the shows that have ads have 2 minutes. I'm sorry, they have 15 minutes of show. I think it's 4 minutes of ads, 15 minutes of show, 2 minutes of ads, and it adds up. But it's 14 minutes of ads altogether in every hour, and they sell each 30-second ad spot for $15. So that's one way you could do it, and you could say, this is what, and that's a relatively low price for a single advertiser to get in, and then you would do that 30-second ad spot, and then you would read it. In your case, if you're doing a 1-hour podcast, you'd read it twice during that podcast, or you would give them 1 minute and just drag it out a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the approach I was hoping for. It would be just one, like a minute segment per episode, and I would pattern it much after how you and Chris have done it in the past.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second, just because you bring it up. There are two ways to do ads. The first way is like a hard stop. So if, for example, if the Ask Noah show, if we ever picked up an advertiser, this is the way that we would do it, because I would need a point where JB can run the ads, that the sponsors that is paying them, and I need a place to break for the advertisers that are paying the radio station. And so we would play probably 30 seconds of music or 15 seconds of music, something like that, and then it would fade out. And then at that point, each network would insert their retrospective ads. And then after the ads are done playing, then there would be a bumper music, and then we'd come back and do the show. Now, the advantage to doing that is you'll never be accused of your show becoming one big long ad. Because, so for example, and I've dealt with this, people say, "Oh, you're a show for DigitalOcean. That's all you ever talk about." No, I talk about DigitalOcean because they do a really good job. It has nothing to do with we talk about DigitalOcean on this show, and they don't give me a dime. And that's not why I talk about them. I talk about them because I think they're a valuable service, and people need to know about it, and they're a useful tool. The fact that they're an advertiser on other shows is irrelevant to me. But nevertheless, the accusation is there. And when you have like a very solid break, this is the ad time, this is not the ad time, then you can kind of separate that out. Otherwise, if you happen to have a segment or a show or part of a show that is heavily talks about something that your advertiser provides, then people don't really know where the ad stopped and the show began. So that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, if you're me personally, the way I like to consume ads, I have never minded the way that Chris runs ads in his shows. And the reason for that is because when he reads an ad, he's not just selling something. He turns the ad into a story. And I like the stories. I like hearing about his experiences. I like hearing about how he applied that particular thing, because to me, that's more valuable. It's sitting here and saying, for $29 a month, you can get DigitalOcean, and you could have 10 droplets at just $5. You can, that to me, that's useless, right? I can find that out from their website. I don't need somebody to tell me that. But to have somebody to sit down and say, I was having a really bad day, and I needed the server to do this particular thing, and I paid $5 and got that up and running. Well, for me, that's really valuable, because the next time I run into that problem, I can go, oh yeah, that guy talked about, that's how he solved that problem. So that's what works on me. If you want to sell something to me, that's the way you do it. You apply it to my life. Like I said, though, it completely depends on which way you go with it. And the other thing you need to consider is when you are going about designing one way or the other, just understand that you've got about 10 seconds, 15 seconds for somebody to reach down to their phone and skip over your ads. So when you're planning out your ads, you probably want to I don't know. But you just keep that in mind, that people may skip over them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's very helpful. I think the big takeaway is I'll kind of start small with this and see how it goes. Maybe do a month or 2 month kind of trial with them. But I think your approach sounds really reasonable to me. So yeah, that's been very helpful.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the call. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate the podcast questions tonight. That's first I was thinking maybe it was just students that had a tangential interest left over from earlier today, but that caller was from Indiana, so maybe not. You too can join the discussion about podcasting and all things broadcasting, and at 1-855-450-NOAH, that's 855-450-6624. You can send an email to live@asknoahshow.com. I'll come right back to the phones, but I do want to say hello to our Mumble Room who's waited so patiently. Hey, guys, how are you?
Oh, hey
What's
there.
up?
Hello.
Guys?
What's going on?
What do you expect? After a great Linux Unplugged today, we wanted to hang out and listen to your show, so.
Hey, well, I really appreciate it. You guys have any questions? Go ahead and ping me in the chat room, okay?
All right.
Perfect. Again, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. Or send an email to live@asknoahshow.com. Let's go back to the phones. Blue Zero's calling from Texas. Hey, Blue Zero, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah.
Hey, how can we help? Can you speak directly into your phone? I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Yeah, one sec. This phone is being real bad today.
Okay, I'll put you back on hold. I'll give you a chance to sort that out. We'll come right back to you, okay? Again, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. Now, many of you have been using the Yubikey after hearing our recommendation here on the Ask Noah Show. And I've been a strong proponent of the Yubikey and the FIDO U2F standard for years now. I think it's absolutely the best way to authenticate SSH, to authenticate websites. I swear by the Yubikey so much that I have one permanently installed in my ThinkPad at all times, and I wear another one around my neck. And I have a third one in a undisclosed location. Now, in case you're new to the program and you're not familiar with what a Yubikey is a hardware-based authentication device. So instead of typing your password when you visit a website or want to authenticate into a server, something like that, you simply plug this device into your computer and you touch it, or you touch it to the back of your phone, depending on what device you're authenticating on. And then you provide what they call presence support. So on the laptop, you touch the side of it. On the phone, you just tap it to the back. It just proves that you're actually sitting in front of it and you're not trying to remotely control the device. It then prompts you for a 4 to 6 digit PIN, which you use to verify that you are actually authorized to use the keys on that device. And then that authenticates you into websites. And it's an order of magnitude more convenient than either trying to remember a bunch of passwords, or even if you're using a password manager like LastPass or KeePassX or something like that. All of those password solutions either require a cloud solution, a syncing solution, or they require a hardware device that's going to carry all of the data on there. But any which way you look at it, none of the three of those are really great options. Now, the Yubikey is a true two-factor authentication, and we've talked about that ad nauseum, so I'm not going to dig back into that again, but two-factor authentication is something you have and something you know. So in the Yubikey's case, it's something you have, the Yubikey, something you know, the PIN. Well, if you've been listening to us and you purchased a Yubikey, then amazing things are happening in the crypto security world, and if you have one of those keys, you are already set up to take advantage of it. This comes to us from ARS Technica. Headline: Practical passwordless authentication is one step closer to reality. The World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, and FIDO Alliance announced today that a new spec, WebAuthn, short for Web Authentication, has been promoted to the candidate recommendation stage. WebAuthn is a specification that allows the web browser to expose the hardware-based authentication devices, USB, Bluetooth, or NFC, to sites on the web. These hardware devices enable the users to prove their identity to the sites without requiring usernames and passwords. The spec has been developed as a joint effort between FIDO, an industry body that's developing secure authentication systems, and W3C, the industry group that oversees the development of web standards. With web admin enabled, browsers and sites can users can sign in to integrated biometric hardware such as fingerprint, facial recognition systems that are widely deployed, external authentication systems such as the popular Yubikey USB hardware. With WebAuthn, there are no user credentials that ever leave the browser, no passwords are ever used, providing for strong protection against phishing, man-in-the-middle attacks, and replay attacks. Microsoft, Google, and Mozilla have all committed to supporting WebAuthn. Chrome 67 and Firefox 60 are both due for stable releases in May and will have WebAuthn enabled by default. WebAuthn builds on a previous FIDO specification called the Universal Authentication Factor, UAF. UAF didn't see much uptake in major browsers, and its specification wasn't clear on how it should work with mobile browsers. WebAuthn has a strong backing from the major browser vendors and is also designed to be more versatile. It's able to handle a wider range of authentication factors, covering not just biometrics and hardware authenticators, but also PINs and even more basic tests that merely verify that a user is present without any identification of who that user is. With WebAdmin in place, widespread adoption of passwordless authentication will be much more practical. We're certainly not going to see the end of passwords overnight, but this is the kind of infrastructure that needs to be in place before it can credibly be replaced. This cannot come fast enough. Passwords are such an unbelievable pain in my rear that we absolutely need this, and we absolutely need this now. And when I saw that not only is this coming, but it is coming in May, it's practically almost here. This is a fantastic evolution. We are at the cusp of a totally new way of authenticating into these devices. Now, I have played enough with the consumer fingerprint readers and the consumer facial recognition stuff to know that I would never, ever, ever, ever want to trust them to secure anything I actually cared about, not even something I cared about as little as my Gmail account, which I don't put a lot of, there's nothing important that I care about that's on the cloud. You guys know that. But even things like my Gmail account, I would never want secured with, a facial recognition or a fingerprint reader because they can be beaten too easily. But the Yubikey, a device that never gives up the private key, a device that time and time again people have tried to hack and break and have had very little, if any, success at all, a device that verifies that me, am personally there, and there is, after 3 incorrect tries of the PIN, or whatever he set it to really, but 3 incorrect tries of the PIN, it destroys the private key, and then you're locked out forever. So nobody can actually, penetrate the thing. Now that's a standard we're talking about. I want to go back to our mumble room. Is it Raf Minoff? Am I pronouncing that right?
Raf.
Raf. Hey.
Raf Minoff is the full name. I'm Raf.
Hey, Raf. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I've got a question about a combo headphone jack and audio outputs on my laptop, because this laptop, I don't know if you know it, it's like a System 76 Oryx Pro. It's the same thing, just a different vendor. Okay. It has 3 audio outputs, right?
I'm not intimately familiar with the hardware details, but you have 3 different 3.5 inch jacks.
Yeah. For some reason, if I plug it into the combo audio, so I can use headphones with microphones built in, I can't use the microphone ever. Doesn't work. Combo jack. I think on other operating systems you get a prompt to see what did you plug in, a headphone or the combo thing? Right. No, not on Linux.
So that has not. So I would suggest that, have you tried using it under Windows, and does it work there?
I have Windows. I haven't tried using it. I don't really need it because I have a line out and it kind of works for me. Sure. But I would like to get it working.
No, for sure. I understand that. The reason I ask is because I've done it under both. I've done it under KDE Neon and I've done it under Ubuntu proper. But when I plug a headset jack, it asks me, is this a headset or just headphones? And if I choose just headphones, it will use the integrated mic that's built into the chassis of the display. And if I click headset, then obviously it will take the microphone input from the actual headset. But at least for sure, Ubuntu proper does that. I believe I've used it under KDE Neon.
I'm using.
I have because
Ubuntu.
You have, okay. So I'm just looking at my laptop right now. I have the combo jack on here, and I know that I've plugged in my headset because that's what I have when I travel. I've got a pair of Etymologic Research earphones, and they have a built-in headset, and it always asks me. So and chat room points this out. It may very well be a different wiring inside of the actual headset. So, for example, they're saying. Apple wires their headsets different than Nokia. So depending on who made your headset, that might affect it. Although, here's what I would say in response to that. In response to that, I would say that, granted, I don't have any wired Apple headsets, but every headset that I have used has worked on my computer. So if there was a second wiring scheme, I haven't run into that. Do you know who it's made by, though?
It's made by Kingston.
Okay.
It's a HyperX thing.
Sure.
I think it's just a standard thing, but as far as I understood, the wiring only works for the little button to skip track stuff. That's different between Android and iOS. That's what I understood.
Have you tried looking through the audio settings to see if it recognizes the actual device or anything like that?
No, I think it recognizes a microphone input, but no sound ever comes through it.
Is there a menu to change your manually from the laptop mic to the headset mic?
There is. I haven't gotten it to work ever.
Have you tried installing Pavo Control by any chance?
Yes.
Okay. And honestly, here's the thing. Pavo Control is just going to, as far as Pavo Control can only see the physical inputs, right? So if Pavo Control, I don't think anyway, is going to be able to decide where to take the microphone input. It just knows it gets the audio input from the input of the sound card. The sound card
I've also tried Also Mixer and nothing.
But so that process of choosing do I use the integrated microphone that's built into the chassis, or do I use the headset mic? That is a process that is occurring on the sound card itself, right? There's not, as far as I know, let me look, but I don't think, at least on my system, and I have the combo headphone jack, it doesn't show me two different inputs. All I get is analog input from the sound card. And I think the sound card then can choose what signal path it wants to take. It wants to take the signal path from the integrated microphone or the combo jack. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I'm fairly certain that's the way that it takes that input, if that sounds...
Also, what version of Ubuntu are you on?
I'm on Kubuntu 17.10.
17.10. Have you tried updating your drivers lately?
As far as I know, I've done every update there is, and I also have the backport repository because I can't stand old versions of KDE.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have in Linux, again, the drivers are going to be kernel level drivers. So if you're running system updates, you're going to be getting the latest hardware compatibility, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, I'm running 4.13, which is pretty recent.
Yeah. Yep. In fact, that is.
Plasma has a specific device controller inside of the system settings.
Can you choose, Michael? You would probably know this. Does the difference between the integrated microphone and the headset controller, is that software? Is that being done in the operating system, or is that being done on the sound card?
It can be done by both, but typically it's done by the motherboard.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. So yeah,
it's just a standard Intel sound card thing.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's built into the motherboard. So yeah, what I would try, step one is I would try a different headset. Step two is I might, dare I say it, try what you said you're on Ubuntu. You might try just Ubuntu proper, because I'm 110% sure that pop-up exists where it says headset and headphones. I know it exists because I've used it there. I want to say I've used it in KDE Neon, but quite frankly, I don't remember if I've ever had a use for a wired headset since I've reinstalled a couple of months ago.
The issue with the Plasma is that there's configurations and a plethora of configurations in Plasma.
Right.
One of them is the ability to switch back and forth between headphones and a stereo system. So if you have speakers or headphones, you can specify. Same thing happens with the mics and all the devices. You can go in and specify which device to which application and things like that. So it kind of can be a little confusing until you get used to the process of it.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Does that help you?
Yeah, kinda. I'll see what I can see.
Okay. Yeah, take a look. Let me know. Get back to me. I'd love to know if that's actually working or not. So make sure to ping me and let me know maybe next week or the week after. And or join us on our Saturday edition, 2 p.m. Central, AskNoahShow.com, jblive.tv. Let's go back to the phones. 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@AskNoahShow.com. Actually, I do want to address in the chat room, guys are talking about the Yubikey. When I say that there are 3 tries and then it destroys the key, that is the default setting. You can tell it, I want to be able to try it 16 times or 24 times. Just understand that as technology progresses, if somebody ever watches you type in that PIN, they have a certain amount of tries to get it right. That's the whole idea, is that they can't guess what the PIN is. So obviously, the further out you push the ability for it to destroy that private key if they get the PIN wrong, obviously, the less secure the device is. We'll go back to Blue Zero in Texas. Hey, Blue, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey.
That's much better. Okay, all right.
Hear me?
Yes, I can. How can we help?
Okay, I'm about to have to buy me a brand new workstation, and I have gained a lot more clients, and I have to use the funeral home's proprietary software, so I know I'm going to have to be using Windows.
Okay, well, good for you for gaining some clients, gaining some traction on your business. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm looking at 2 manufacturers. There's one's called Digital Storm. The other one is Dell. And what I'm looking for is a good rendering machine for videos. There's Digital Storm. The builds can either be Intel or AMD, but Dell has a way better track record, in my opinion. But I'm an AMD guy.
Well, Dell, hold on a second now. Dell has a Ryzen system. Let me see if I can find this while I'm on the air. This is what you call live radio, folks. Yeah, I actually saw this is in Best Buy. In fact, yeah, it's the here we go. I almost bought one of these for JB for doing our live stuff. We ended up going with an XPS i7, but this was on the short list for sure. It's the Dell Inspiron 5675, and I will have a link for you in the show notes. Now, when I say I'm going to have a link for you in the show notes, I am talking about the podcast.asknoahshow.com, not the traditional show notes, because what I add in here won't actually go into the show doc. But this Dell Inspiron 5675 is a Ryzen 7 system, 3.4 megahertz, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte hard drive, and an AMD Radeon RX 570 graphics card. So $700 or $750. So that's, you can, if you like Dell, and I agree with that decision, by the way, I agree with that thought process. I think Dell makes a really good computer, and I think a lot of those, like what was it called, iBuy Power PC or whatever, those companies tend to charge a pretty hefty fee for actually assembling the machine. Like you can just order the parts. I just ordered the parts and put it together myself before I paid them to do it. But you do get the warranty. And by the way, if there's anybody out there that's like, well, if you buy the machine though, you get a warranty. You get all, no, you don't actually. A lot of times, we bought one for I can't remember what the purpose was, but it was a good friend of mine. He bought a machine off of Newegg. It shipped. We literally carried it up and plugged it in his office, and within and I'm not exaggerating, within like an hour, we hadn't even gotten the operating system installed, and within an hour, the machine blew up. And we opened it up, and we were doing some like basic troubleshooting. Is it the power supply? Is this? And we eventually determined the motherboard was fine, the graphics card was fine. It was either the power supply or the CPU that had gone out. That very day, we filled out an RMA, shipped the machine back to Newegg. Newegg receives it and says, well, because you opened the machine, we are not going to RMA or fix it, and you must have done something to make it blow up like that, so that's why it blew up. No. It blew up before we opened it up, number one. Number two, there are no tags or markings that we had. There's no evidence that we had opened it up. We did, but there was no evidence of that. And so they said, well, you must have modified it some way, and they wouldn't give the money back. And my friend had the integrity to not put, because like I said, there was no evidence of it, so he could have just said, I didn't open it up. But we did. And he had the integrity to just say, fine, go ahead and screw me out of $600 or $700. So I'm not a huge fan of these companies that build pre-built BCs unless they're an actual PC manufacturer like Dell, Lenovo, System 76, those kinds of things. But I just purchased. Actually, I got two of them. I've got the Dell XPS with the i7-7700, and a very close contender, mostly because it has this like kind of cool blue glowing thing, is the Dell Desktop Inspiron 5675, which we have a link in the show notes. So if you're even half considering that blue, I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay, thanks. Can you send me that on Telegram, man? I'll totally forget which website. Yeah, for sure. I tell you what I'll do, Blue. I will go ahead and post I'll post a link to the show notes in the Ask Noah Telegram group, and I'll pin it in there, so you can just click on the link and grab it there. Again, phone lines are open, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. In late 2005, tech visionary and MIT Media Lab founder Nicholas, I'm going to screw this up, Negroponte, pulled the cloth cover off of a small green computer with a bright yellow crank. The device was the first working prototype of Negroponte's new non-profit one laptop per child, dubbed the Green Machine, or simply the $100 laptop. And it was like nothing the audience, either his panel or the UN-sponsored tech summit in Tunis or around the globe, had ever seen before. The article goes on to question what it really was. Why did the OLPC not take off? So if you're not familiar with this company made a sub $100 laptop that was going to be available for children. Now, I've had a chance to meet some of these people at conferences and various other places, and these are really top-notch folks. They are doing some really cool things. They are flying to other countries. One of the things that we were talking about with these folks is they were saying that they wanted to provide computers for education in third world countries. And the problem that you have is you can't leave a server or a permanent machine installed because somebody will steal it because they don't have locks on the doors. And so they have unique challenges that we don't face here in the US. They need a computer that they can take, that the teacher can take home with her. That server has to be able to fit in her handbag. Oh, and by the way, she doesn't have a car, she walks. So it might be kind of nice if it's small and portable. Oh, and they don't have electricity all the time. So it's going to have to be battery powered, or you have to power it with like a bicycle or a solar panel or stuff like that. And these guys, they are figuring all of this stuff out. They are making it work for these people that don't have any other options. And I want to be a part of that. I think it's really cool. And I've actually bought one of these OLPC laptops for every one of my kids. So I have a unique perspective on this, on why it didn't work out, on where they went wrong. The issue is well, let me start with what the issue isn't. The issue is not that they didn't make a good computer, that they didn't price it properly, that there wasn't enough features, there's not enough bang for the buck. None of that was the issue at all. The issue starts and ends with the fact that as the price of hardware is coming down, more and more companies want to participate in that entry-level market. Because, don't get me wrong, there is a group of people that will pay any amount of money to have a computer that just quote-unquote works. And that's why Apple has a successful business model. But the truth of the matter is that there are a lot of people that they walk into Best Buy and they buy the cheapest thing that they can get the job done with. And a lot of them, whether they are correct or incorrect, believe anyway that the cheapest computer that is offered is good enough because even the cheap computer is so much better than they were 10 years ago when it's a brand new machine, and all I need to do is check my email and watch some YouTubes, so that should work. And as that audience grew and grew and grew, and you have more and more customers that want to purchase those entry-level PCs, more and more companies participated in creating low-level PCs.
until you literally have companies like Microsoft that are subsidizing these $100 and $200 Windows computers. You have Google subsidizing the $100, $200 Chromebooks, which actually have a reasonable amount of power and storage in them. And what they lack in storage, they make up for in cloud storage. So if you're a company and you're trying to make these products work, yes, the OLPCs, probably did very well and served their purpose across seas. But here in the US, or, any place where you have a lot of money, there are just quote unquote better options to get the job done. And so most parents are buying their kids a Chromebook or something like that. Now, again, I have bought my kids, each one has had an OLPC. My youngest is 2. She just turned 2 a couple months ago. And I would assume that she will wind up with an OLPC as well. Because there are some really nice design features. They have the rubberized keyboard, so spills and stuff don't affect it, and she can't pick off the keys and stuff like that. So I'm a big fan of OLPC, and for her, just to be able to watch the movies, draw on the screen, stuff like that, I think that works really well. Things that I think they could improve on, if they had the ability to do like a web conferencing, something like that, I think that would be really helpful. But we'll see what happens. As we wind down this program, I want to head over to our Distro Elimination Challenge. Our Distro Elimination Challenge is where we are trying to build a review site for Linux distros. So every week we're asking you, which Linux distro would you use on the desktop? We give you 2 choices. You vote on those 2 choices. Now, it does not have to be the Linux distro you would actually use. I'm not asking you which is your favorite Linux distro out of all of them. I'm saying if you had your choice, if you were stuck on an island and here are your 2 choices of Linux distros, which one would you choose? Last week we asked you that question. We gave you the 2 options of Linux Mint and TrueOS. Unsurprisingly, Linux Mint wins with 72% of the votes, TrueOS trailing in at 27% of the votes. This upcoming week, we have PC Linux OS and Xubuntu. So if you were stuck on an island, which of those two Linux distros would you use? Would you install PC Linux OS and be stuck on your island with PC Linux OS for the rest of eternity? And Xubuntu. Or Xubuntu. Which one of those 2 you choose? I know which one I'd choose. So you can vote AskNoahShow.com/elimination. Hey, while you're on the Ask Noah dashboard, would you do me a favor? Head over to AskNoahShow.com/better and let us know how we can improve this show. We just made it to 1 year. We're very thankful. I was looking at statistics earlier today before we went over to UND to do our presentation. And thank you to everybody that downloads the show, that comes, those of you that call in and participate live, those of you that listen live, those of you in our Mumble Room. We really appreciate you. But help us make the show better. If you can think of a way to do that, let us know at AskNoahShow.com. I want to address one thing in the chat room real quick. Chat room is talking about how do you load GPG keys onto the Yubikey. Now, if you're using it for like email signing, if you're using it to encrypt files and stuff like that, that's definitely a route you want to go down. But if you're trying to log into servers, you can actually load an SSH key right on to the Yubikey and authenticate that way. Or the other way you can do it, the more quote-unquote elaborate way, but it does involve a cloud solution, is you can use what's called PAM authentication. And basically what PAM authentication does, your server asks Yubico's servers, is this person allowed to log in? And so the advantage to PAM authentication is that you can, without touching, you can void a single key in a central location, and all of a sudden, all the servers that are looking at that PAM authentication site will now know to not let you authenticate. The other thing PAM can do that's really interesting is you can actually decrypt not decrypt, but you can decrypt a partition on a hard drive that has access to the internet. Of course, the issue is with PAM authentication, because it's a cloud-based service, you actually have to be able to get to the internet. So it would scare me to put that on my system, but that is something that you could do. So yeah, we'll be the next couple weeks are going to be a little hectic. We'd ask that you hang in with us. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check out the download that's going to come up. That's an episode we recorded earlier today, and I will try to get this episode out. Not sure if it's going to happen on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I know I will get it out sometime this week because, of course, we want to be ready for next week to get our ducks in a row. Obviously, we're going to have a big week out in Seattle, hanging out with Chris, doing some live shows, all of that kind of stuff. Hey guys, did you know that this show is available as a downloadable podcast? To subscribe to the feed or download the latest episode, visit podcast.asknoahshow.com. There you'll find not only the latest episode, but all of the articles and material referenced in this episode. You can get the latest, of course, by following us on Twitter at AskNoahShow. The Ask Noah Show continues next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. A huge thanks to Voxtelsis for providing our phone systems, Ben, our producer, and Sarah, our call screener. This hour of the show may be over, but there's plenty of more content for you 24/7 over at AskNoahShow.com.